7. And no, table 7, main course.
I'm Dave Cathy, the Food Dude, and I'm down here at the Myriad Botanical Gardens event space where a bunch of Oklahoma chefs got together to create a benefit to raise money for the American Red Cross Central Oklahoma chapter. Right here with this beautiful piece of art that was built out of debris from the Moore tornado. All the proceeds from this event went to the American Red Cross. What we had was a live art show and some of the best food this city's ever seen, made by its best chefs. And one in particular flew in from New York City. His name's Danny Bowen. He's one of the hottest chefs in America, and here he is. All right, Danny, so you're back home. Tell me about, what's been going on.
Well, I mean, I'm super proud to be back home. I mean, I grew up in Oklahoma. Not a lot of people know that, but I'm from here, and it's an amazing, beautiful place to be from. And just things like what we're doing tonight, it makes you really proud to be from a strong community. And I feel like I live in New York and San Francisco now, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's so you're so easygoing or laid back," and it really has a lot to do with just the people that I grew up with and my upbringing in Oklahoma. So
It's really cool. I mean, I know everybody here is just so thankful that you did this because it's a great cause. Raising money for this terrible tragedy,
Right.
And I know that this was not an easy thing for you to do. I mean, so we really appreciate that.
I mean, it's anything I can do, man. I seriously, whenever when some of the chefs got a hold of me, I was like, I'd drop anything to go back
Sure.
to Oklahoma. I mean, I'm always looking for an excuse to come back, but it's good to as a chef and amongst all these other great chefs, what we do is it's hard work, and I feel like as becoming a chef, it's becoming it's very popular, but I feel like what leverage we have, we should definitely use that to give back and do stuff like this.
Well, let's talk a little bit for a minute. You grew up here. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I grew up. I'm Korean. I was adopted when I was 3 months old. Both of my parents were from Oklahoma. They met in high school, and they met through my dad's sister, and they did this long. My mother and father had this. My dad was stationed in Alaska, and they had this long writing letters from to each other back and forth, and then they adopted me in 1982, and I came over here. I was 3 months old. And I grew up in Oklahoma, man, just like everyone else. It's kind of funny. I don't speak Korean. I didn't even have Korean food until I was I'd say 20 when I moved to San Francisco for the first time.
Right?
So yeah, I mean, I'm actually 19. I moved to San Francisco, and I got off the bus and I went and had Korean food for the first time. But it's a beautiful, it's a beautiful place to be from. I went to Westmore High School, which our high school was actually affected by the first tornado, and it really just being a part of that, and driving around, the area back then, it really had an impact on me, and I feel very, very happy and actually, very, very honored to be able to come and help out, because then I was just in high school, and now
Right.
I'm so yeah, I mean, I grew up on the south side. I grew up off 89th and Penn. I thought I wanted to be an eye doctor, so I worked at Massingale Eye Care, at Crossroads Mall for 4 years, and then I found out what music was and rock and roll, and I was in a band, and then the band broke up, and I moved to California. That's the short and long of it. And
How'd you end up cooking?
that's the thing is I grew up and I didn't play a lot of sports. My mother, she cooked at home. I mean, we ate at 5 o'clock, and then. And so I would go home after school, and I would just cook with my mom, and she would she'd always watch cooking shows. I had the privilege to meet Emeril Lagasse the other day for the first time ever, and I told him, I was like, man, it's an honor, because I grew up watching you, made me want to cook. So I think I got into cooking because it was something other artistic outlet besides sports, and so it was one of the things, and it was a good time for me to spend with my mother, and I started noticing that cooking brings people together, and that was how it all started. I actually didn't really fall in love with cooking until after I moved from San Francisco to New York. New York was a very difficult transition when I was 21, 22, and then moved back to San Francisco, and I somehow I just really wanted to cook. I went to culinary school out in California.
That's cool.
So yeah.
So that's it. All right. Well, cool. Well, I know you got a place in San Francisco. You got a place in New York. Everybody always wants to know, when are you coming to Oklahoma City? I have to ask the question.
I want to. That's the thing. It's definitely. The economics are all there. I mean, for the rent, rents in New York and San Francisco are insane, and I feel like we can get a 6 space here, and also just, there's a lot of being back and being around my friends that I grew up with. I feel like there definitely is a space for it. You know, I went to this insane like coffee shop today, and I was like, this is like something we have in New York. Coming back, you know, every year, Oklahoma just keeps getting better and better and better, and like cooler. And you know, I went to the Super Cal Win supermarket, that Asian market. It gives all of the Asian market. I'm not lying. All the Asian markets in New York City and San Francisco run for their money. I mean, what they're doing there, they're bringing in the coolest stuff. And I'm like, man, I can't even get this in New York. So like, and you know, and just I miss the food here. To be honest, the Vietnamese food, I always go off about how delicious it is here,
so good.
because that's another reason I fell in love with cooking, was eating Vietnamese food growing up with my friends.
You know, the overriding theme this weekend was do what you can do. Danny referenced it when we talked to him, and pretty much every chef I talked to at length for any amount of time talked about doing what they could do, and how there was this sense in the community of people giving money and giving their skills and giving their time. And, you know, this was a beautiful example of it. And, you know, unfortunately, it took a terrible tragedy for it to come together. But, you know, what Oklahoma City has done and Oklahoma has done in tragedy after tragedy is unify, stick together, and move forward. So here's hoping we can continue that trend.